Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Joe Daddy's Garage. Today is September 30th, 2024. I think it's the last day of the month, isn't it? I think. If not, tomorrow is, but I think it's the last day of the month. It's been a pretty good month here. Pretty good last couple of weeks. I've got a lot done on the Carbojet, and I'm looking forward to having a lot more done in the next few days. Now, let me start off by saying there's been a lot of bad stuff happening all the way from Florida through Georgia, Tennessee, South Carolina, North Carolina, and I really hope everybody is safe. I know there's been so many tragedies. At least 100 people have died in this hurricane storm, and it's heartbreaking, and you don't realize how lucky you are until you see the footage and just the destruction. We've had in the past here where we live, we've had tornadoes come through, and just maybe a mile away, the tops of the trees are gone, or a little further up the road, there's a whole town that is hit. Um, and you wonder sometimes, why is this place getting hit and we're not, or what's the how is this even possible that we avoided all this? So uh, it's just really difficult to try to be, hey, this is fantastic, knowing that there's so many people that are either trapped in their homes or trapped without power and food or cell service or anything. And it's just really challenging right now. So I don't know how many people are in those areas or close to those areas that are affected, but I really do hope that everybody is getting the attention they need and the help they need. Um, it's just terrible. Just I mean, there's not much we can do here. Obviously, there's ways we can send money or whatever, but they need people, boots on the ground, so to speak, and to help these people out. And this is going to be probably years of recovery for a lot of these places. I know we've been to Asheville, North Carolina, I think it is Asheville, yeah, and the Biltmore House and all that area up there. And we went to um, there's a brewery. I can't think of the name of it right now. They have little bicycles on their logo, and the I mean, all that stuff is just destroyed. There's whole buildings wiped out, and just, oh man, it's amazing the destruction that Mother Nature can bring forth. So again, I hope everybody is safe, and I hope that everybody gets the help that they need moving forward. Okay. Now the second tragedy is here in Georgia, northeast of us, in Conyers, a chemical plant caught on fire. And from what the records show, they apparently catch on fire like every 4 years. I think it's their strategy. I don't know, but it's a chemical factory that makes chlorine and other stuff. So right now, you could probably maybe, or my voice is already messed up. My throat is already rough. I walked outside this morning, and there was a haze all the way, all the yards. There was just this foggy haze all over the place, and I thought, is somebody burning something already? And I didn't realize it is from that plant, which is probably 30, 40 miles from us. So all the surrounding area of Conyers is getting this overload of smoky gas, or whatever, coming from this plant that is burned up. So my wife came out earlier, and she was like, her throat was burning from that effect. So I know that there's just a lot going on, and unfortunately, there's only so much we can do, and I hope that the leadership that is out there is trying to do the best thing they can for everybody, not just the whole drill. So anyway, throat's a bit rough, so I'll see how far I can go tonight, but yeah, it's just tragic. It's just tragic. So anyway, this past week I had gotten epoxy primer on the Mach 1, and that went very well. I did seam seal up the edges of the car, and that took a little bit of effort to try to get all those areas taken care of. And today, as you saw in the thumbnail picture, I have the body and the doors in high build primer. And these are actually products that Charles had bought for me to use on his car. And I've done the research on them, and they look like, good products. We can talk about that more in just a minute if you want. But things are going pretty well with the process. There's still a lot to do. I mean, it's nice to see the car in primer and see, pieces and parts, but there's still a lot of things that need to be addressed to get everything in primer and have it ready for the eventual paint process. So I'm looking forward to making good progress on all that. And I'll be putting out a video on the paint process. And I tried to do something a little different with my video. I know that I use my little GoPro camera. I used it on my head in the last video, and that seemed to be a pretty good thing. I am going to be I tried to use this little Insta360, so we're going to see how that works. But I had a little flaw. I didn't realize there was something right in the center of the lens on this one side, and it may have messed up the video. But anyway, that's all secondary to everything else that's going on. If you're new to this live stream, we try to talk about classic cars as much as we can. And I say classic, and my bracket is 55 to like 79 or 80, maybe 81, somewhere in that range. Those are the cars that I'm probably most familiar with. And if you have a question or topic you want to bring up and discuss, or if you have a question that is relatable to your project, by all means, I encourage you to do that. The more participation we get, the better it is for everybody. And, sometimes we can really help people solve problems and, keep their project moving. So that's always a good thing. Now, let's start with seeing who is in here first, and that is Rick Gain. Hope everyone in the path of the storm is okay. Let's enjoy good Mustang talk. Like and thumbs up for Barry, please. Yes. Thank you, Rick. He gets the first bell tonight. That's right. Participation bell for everybody. Dave Tyson. Good evening, all. Good evening, Dave. I know Dave had commented on the some pictures that I posted recently on Facebook of the Mach 1. Terry Keithley. Hi, all. Hope you all have a good week. Please hit the like and thumbs up for Barry, Terry, Betty, and the cats. Got to have the cats. That's important. If the cats aren't there, it's not even worth turning on the show. Troy Justit. Good evening, gang and Barry. I see the CJ is in K2 primer. I guess the storm wasn't bad at your place. It was not. We really had nothing, and I say nothing. We at our property, absolutely nothing. Lots of rain, lots and lots of rain, but 2 houses over, there's a property that has really big hardwood trees. And, we have a lot of pine and some hardwoods in our lot, but that guy lost probably 3 trees that were a good 2.5 feet in diameter. And I know one took down another one, and then one fell across his driveway, but that's really the only thing that I could see in the immediate area around us. So thankful for that. Thank you, Troy. Steve Reed. Hello, Barry and everyone. Hope all are doing well, and the Mach 1 is coming along great. Thank you, Steve. It is coming along, and I'm it's always an effort to do paint work. It's the most stressful thing that I do, but the advantage on this one is the fact that it's basically all new metal. So as long as I have the joints right and the filler correct, it shouldn't be a big concern at the end. Now, of course, there's all the details of painting the car. And I was just at a car show last week, and I pointed out to some people there, they were looking at, and I bring this up in the past, when you paint like a Mustang, the quarter panel and the extension need to be painted together, not like quarter panel and then lay the extension on the table and then spray it. And you could see that in some of the cars that were at the show. And, stuff like that has to be done whenever you're, especially the big pieces, the big extensions like on the 69 and 70. They really need to be in the right spot. So all that effort coming forward pays off in the end. You know, whenever you see the final product and you go, oh, look at that, everything lines up and the paint looks good. So that's always the goal, and it's just like I said, it's the most stressful thing for me is doing the paint work. But glad to hear, Steve. Evans, Messy Garage. Hey everyone, hope you all are okay and safe. Likewise. Man, I'm telling you that whatever is in the air this morning, it's not good. And it also doesn't help. There's still probably some fumes floating around from spraying the car earlier. So it's my own fault if I don't have air coming in here right now. Roger, Hindsight 6'7", greetings from next door. Glad you're here, Rog. Terry, what brand of high build did you use? It was actually PPG, and it is PPG. The part number is NCP 271, I believe, is what I used. And that is some stuff that Charles had bought. Let me grab the can. Charles had bought. It is Deltron. I got some primer on there. NCP 271 is the number. But it's a Deltron, and it's a corrosion-resistant primer gray is what this is. So it appears to be really good stuff. What I've read online, I went to the PPG website, and I pulled up the data sheet. I always like to have that information. And it even talks about it's isocyanate free, which is awesome. Excellent corrosion resistance, high build, and easy sanding. So that's the product that I used. And you know, I don't know what I have no idea what the stuff cost, because like I said, Charles had bought this stuff before we ever even got to this point. So this is his doing on that end. But thank you, Terry. Good question. Jack W. Hello, Barry. Hope all is well in Georgia. Thank you, Jack. Likewise in New Jersey. Rusty's Restoration. Hello, on Barry. Great progress on the Cobra Thumbs up all. Yes, thank you, Rusty. It is very rewarding to see it go from, you know, pieces and parts to raw metal to epoxy to primer, and see all it's just visually it's exciting to make that stuff happen. David, the bowler hat guy. Good evening, Barry. Hello, all. Hello, David. Hope all is well. Winged Warrior. That's another Dave. So we've had like 3 Daves show up now. So Winged Warrior has not been on here in quite some time. He sent me a message a couple days ago, and we got back in touch with each other. It's nice to have you here, Dave. Nice to have you. Oh, look, it's Dave Conville. So there's another Dave. We're knocking it out of the park with Daves tonight. That's pretty cool. Glad you're here, Dave. Steve Reed, Friday into Saturday, we had 5.5 inches of rain here in Paducah, Kentucky. That's a lot. I think I don't know if it was Asheville or the surrounding area, they said they got 4 months of rain in like 3 hours or something. Now, what that total was, I have no idea. But those videos, they had that one, showing the bridges just disappearing and buildings floating down what would be where the river was, but now it's just giant, massive flow, and you see houses floating by, and it's like, oh my gosh, that is just incredible to see that sort of thing. And you just can't imagine. You just can't imagine what that feels like. I know I can't. Here, I know that for us, where we're at, the likelihood of us, if it ever floods here, everybody's in trouble, the way I look at it. We don't have any close by rivers or, nothing's going to affect us. So there's no concern. If there's, like I said, if there's a flood here, we're in big trouble. So I can't imagine just having a property somewhere, a beautiful river, and the next thing you know, your house is floating away. Just devastating. Edward Hutchins, here in Florida was tough, but my Mustang is okay. Well, that's good to hear. That is good to hear. I know that, You watch the news. My wife and I were watching the Weather Channel reports, and of course they want to get content, and have viewers, and make you stay around for the commercials and all that sort of thing. And you watch some of the stuff, and here's this tremendous footage of, as I said, buildings floating away and carnage and destruction. And then they had this segment where it was some strip mall that got like 2 feet of water in it, and they had a little bit of little traces of mud on the tile floor, and they were trying to play this up like, oh, look at this devastation. And the only thing they could find that was broken was a desk that had a leg broken off of it. And they're trying to play this up. They're like, oh, look here's where the water was. It was all this way up in this building. Here's some, look, they've got all this mud to clean out. It looked like something you could sweep out, basically. And you compare that to like whole towns wiped out, and it's like, why are you even showing us that stuff? I mean, granted, you don't want anybody to have those issues, but they don't compare scale wise to the destruction around Asheville and those other areas. Troy, I had 4 trees down and was without power for 2 days here in coastal Georgia. No property damage. Well, that's a good sign. That's a good thing. Travis, good evening, all. Slither looks pretty good. Thank you, Travis. My #1 patron, by the way. Appreciate you. James, my Mustang Garage. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, James. Glad you're here. The Dutchman's Wood Shack. Howdy from Geneva, Illinois. Just got back from Asheville, North Carolina. Complete devastation. Yeah. Thank you for that. I don't know if you were there for helping or if you were just there and it just left. But yeah, it's heartbreaking. It really is. Ed Cucciarella, hello all. Glad all are safe. Thank you, Ed. Glad you're here. Randall Heath, hey from Mountain Green, Utah. Hey Randall, hope all is well. And I'm sure you have not had any flood issues out that way. The Dutchman's Wood Shack, I'm looking at maybe painting my Mustang the basic paint job that's on it now. Lots of small dings and dents, but I'm finding out its costs are really steep. $20,000 and up. Ugh. Yeah. Yeah, and a year or so ago, maybe 2 years ago, people were charging $10,000 basically to do a paint job, and it might go over that sum. But the cost of materials has gone up so much that it's almost impossible to do it for that. So yeah, it's going to be a challenge for anybody moving forward. And I of course I'm going to paint my own stuff. I didn't want to paint the Cobra Jet. That wasn't on my list of things to do, but we agreed to do it. And Charles had already bought the primers. So it's on me to get all the other materials, so the paint, the clear coat, and I supplied all the paper and tape and, all that stuff. But yeah, it adds up really quick. And I will point out, I have paper, I have my little paper machine with the tape on it. And I had a greenish tint paper, and I was out of that. And I had already ordered some replacement from Amazon. And of course, we all look for the best deal on that stuff. And so I ordered some of this white paper. And let me tell you, that's the thinnest paper I've ever used. I mean, it's almost like Waffle House bacon. It's only got one side. It's so thin. And it's like, oh, but you got to be careful putting it up there. It might not hold up. But that's what I ended up using on a car. And I'm gonna have to use up both. I had 2 rolls of that. So note to self, don't skimp too much on the paper. Try to get decent paper. But all that stuff just adds up really quick. Dave Tyson's sail panel turned out great. It did. And there's always going to be those people that was like, they were complaining, I say, about the fillers that I used and different materials. But the car itself, all that stuff is welded solid. I honestly probably didn't need to use that aluminum filler. I could have just used Rage, but I wanted to experiment with that stuff and see how it went. And it's just really good. It feels really, really smooth right now. I will be basically block sanding the whole car and looking for any flaws or something that I missed. And if it needs more primer, I will add more primer, but I don't know that it's going to. Yeah, all those panels are fantastic. They were all new, so relatively everything is as straight as can be. But yeah, it's looking really good. The Dutchman, I was stuck on the Biltmore grounds for a while before they found a way out. Oh, well, you know what? The Biltmore, I say the Biltmore. Apparently, you just say Biltmore House. I don't know why. I call it the Biltmore, but regardless, that place is incredible. I've been there twice. In fact, there's a video. I did a video on it. Might be on my other channel. I think it might be on my other channel. I'm not sure, but that is an incredible building, and the whole story behind it is just amazing. And he says downtown Asheville is a disaster. Yeah, yeah. It's just rough. It's going to take years for them to recover from that. Dave Conville, I'm just another day, by the way. Oh, by the way, did Helene, Georgia survive? Okay, I was there a number of years ago, and I remember a river running through the town. I don't know. I didn't hear anything about Helene specifically. I have not seen any news reports or anything on the local, Weather Channel or anything like that. So I don't know. Dummarine. Yes, paint job costs 100% higher in 4 years. Let's go, B. Yeah. Yep. Yay. Yeah. So that's the advantage I have right now. And let me get a little bit of coffee because my throat's rough. Is the fact that Charles had bought this material, obviously before he passed, and I've just been storing it and holding on to it. So he had bought the red epoxy that I used on the bottom of the car. He bought the black epoxy that I sprayed on the body, and he bought this high build gray primer. So I'm thankful for that. That's going to help offset costs for when the project is done, of course. Now, I still have to decide what I'm going to use for the base coat and the clear coat. Typically, all I've ever used is PPG. And I was talking to I was at the car show, and I was talking to a PPG representative, former PPG representative. He has retired. And we talked about the paints and the quality of paints, and he was basically, what he was telling me was the difference between Shopline and Omni and all these different ones is the solids in the color. And he said what it comes down to is if you're going to be spraying Shopline, it's the same color as the other brand, but there's more solids in the other brand. So your cost goes up because you're paying for more solids, right? But he also said what it really means is you're going to put on 3 coats of the cheaper version and 2 coats of the more expensive version. So, is it worth the trade-off? I don't really know for sure, because like I painted jade, and I messed up that paint job and I had to do it again, right? But 1 gallon of, and I had Shopline brand for my color, and the color is beautiful, but that 1 gallon, that mixes to 2. You end up with 2 gallons out of that 1 because you have to reduce it. So, do you really need a gallon of the more expensive paint, and then you're only going to use, let's say, 2/3 of it instead of the cheaper paint, and you end up using like all of it? Does it weigh out the same? And then what do you do with the extra paint? So if you bought a gallon of the more high-end paint and you paint a vehicle and you still have a third of it left, what do you do with it? Or a quarter of it, whatever. What do you do with that? You end up throwing it away, and then now you've thrown away your money because you can't keep it forever, technically. But if you buy the cheaper stuff, sure, put 2, 3, whatever coats on there. Make sure the coverage is good, and then use a better quality clear coat. So I'll probably still go with the cheaper version of the base, and maybe step up the clear coat so it's much better. But that's kind of where my path is at the moment. Doyle, I saw a 66 Galaxy with windows down and covered in mud. Maybe sad, I'm sure it was somebody's pride, but again, it is just a car. Yeah, it is. But you really, like, there's been some pictures on Facebook of a 65 or 6 fastback that was somewhere, I don't know, somewhere in Georgia. I don't know where it's at. But there was that fastback, and then there was a Fox body car, and trees had fallen on them. So the front and the back of I think front and the back, or at least the front and the windshield area was crushed on this fastback. And the pictures, I mean, it's just devastating. And then you look and see wherever these people are, they've got a garage, and the garage is packed full of miscellaneous, it looks like miscellaneous junk. Now, granted, it's their stuff. Whatever they want to do with it is up to them. I'm not condemning them for not putting the car inside, but that car was probably more valuable than anything that was sitting in that garage, and they left them both sit outside, and they both got crushed by trees, you know. But there's you don't expect, it's like, oh, I don't think this tree's going to fall today. I'll leave the car sit out. I don't know that I want to take that risk, not with anything that you know, that has value. If it's just one of my old cars that happens to get crushed, I'm like, not a big deal. But it's still not good to see. You don't want to see these cars get damaged. Troy, I was happy that you used the aluminum compound. I bought the same stuff to use for mine. Now I see how good it works. Thank you for the video. You're welcome. Yeah, I'm not disappointed in that stuff. I think it's fine. Yeah, and then like I said, it was not meant to be the final product. It was meant just to fill it, just to you know, build up that midsection. Winged Warrior, I'm sure that I have what I have left from painting my cars just going bad. Anyone need their Halloween decor painted presidential blue metallic? See, that's my point. Like right now in that my paint cabinet, I have that much Gulfstream Aqua left, and I'm going to hold on to it. I'm not going to get rid of it. I don't need to, but there's just that much left in the bottom of that can. So if it, you know, maybe got a paint chip, I could just take a little bit, touch that up, and be done with it. But otherwise, there's what else are you gonna do with it? You know, it's not like the latex paints where you can just mix them all together and paint something. You know, that's what they used to do with. Yeah, I've heard of people in the housing business. They would have leftover 5-gallon buckets of paint, and they would just dump them all together and stir them up and add some white to it or something and stir it up, and then just spray that house, whatever that color was. Marcus Frisk, I made it just a little late. Well, I'm glad you're here. Marine, does anyone know how many 65 fastbacks still exist? Not a clue. And then you have to narrow it down. How many original 65 fastbacks? And how many clones? How many coupes that were turned into fastbacks, right? He couldn't even guess. Robert made it, the Infernal Craftsman. Early morning all, too old to be a mountain goat climbing mountains here in Naxos, Greece. Been watching the storm damage, hope all are okay. It hasn't rained in 9 months here, going back to sleep. Yeah, Robert is over in Greece right now, enjoying a vacation with his wife. And he has sent me some pictures of that place. Beautiful. I hope one day I can make it over there. But I think it's like 2 in the morning or something where he's at. So thank you, Robert, for checking in. uh, Tony Fladiga. Put high build on my 66 Mustang on Sunday. Lots of sanding and feature. I'm terrible at painting, but it's good practice for the final paint job. Yes. Glad you're here, Tony. And you know what I normally used to do it on Sunday. So just out of kind of out of habit, I don't like to sand any primer, the high build stuff, for like a week, maybe even longer. Might even go 2 weeks. I want that stuff to just completely be dry and shrink if it needs to and all that sort of thing. I don't want to mess with it for at least a week, maybe two. So currently, you know, the body and the doors of the Cobra Jet are in primer. Tomorrow, I will be priming the deck lid, the rear valance, and the hood. At least the top side of the hood. I still have work to do on the bottom side, but I want to get primer on that right now so that it's all sealed up and taken care of. But in the meantime, I'm going to let that stuff sit in the paint booth, and I'm going to continue to do other parts. I'll be prepping the extensions, the rock guard, the front valance. I think I have it, and of course the front fenders. So I've got to make all that stuff ready to be primed again with epoxy. But yeah, I don't like to get in a hurry for sanding. And then when you do that stuff, just take your time. Use the dry guide coat and take your time and make sure you find any flaws, because if you miss something and then you start putting color on and then clear coat, that thing is, whatever that damage or bad spot is, it's locked in there until you redo it. So, Travis, sorry, Barry, I was walking my dog. What brand are you going to use? Shopline. Yeah, probably Shopline. That's what I've used before for everything. And again, the Shopline has, I can't give you a ratio. I can't say this has, let's say 50 parts per million. I don't know what the number is in the Shopline. And then the next level up has 75 parts per million, whatever the numbers are. It's just a number of solids in there. So I have no problem using Shopline. I think it'll be fine. It's always been fine before. That's what I used on the Bronco that I did last year, and it turned out fantastic. Thank you, Travis. Troy, there's 165 fastback in my garage, so we're at 1. Okay, well, that's 1. Blind Luck Mechanic. Hi, Barry. Hi, Rick. Oh, hi, Rick Gain. He's saying hi to Rick Gain. Hi to all. Glad you're here, Blind Luck Mechanic. You know, it's been fun watching, and literally, he is blind. He's not just, he is blind. And I'm catching snippets of the stuff he's putting on YouTube. And, you know, he's putting in these, I think JGE, I think is what it is, shock towers in his Mustang. And, man, the width that you gain from putting in those, taking out the old shock towers and putting in these, you know, triangulated kind of ones. I forget what the number was. It was huge. The amount of space that you gain, like 9 inches of space or something. You could put a Hemi in there by the looks of it. Really, really big space. So if you get a chance, just check out his channel and see what he's doing. And he's blind. He's doing this all by hand, you know. Now, granted, he's got somebody I know comes in and helps him with the welding and stuff like that. But pretty neat that he's doing all this stuff. Steve Reed, I know of 5 real 65 fastback Mustangs here in Paducah, and one of them is mine. Okay, so we're up to 6 then. We're up to 6, I think. Or where did I count his once? I don't know. Were you the one that said you had 1? Well, that's Troy. Okay, so we're up to 6. So right now the grand total is 6. That's pretty rare. Mr. Cyrno, hi all from Akron, Ohio. Glad you're here, Mr. Cyrno. Man, voice is getting rough already, I'm telling you. Dumarine, Troy Steve, my 625 Fastback is a Survivor GT with pony interior, third owner. So that's 7. And it's a 4-speed with rally pack. Ooh, that's a nicely optioned car. Nicely optioned. So I think we're up to 7. That's pretty good. Okay. I'm telling you, all the stuff in the air. Rick, does Tammy have somebody lined up to do final assembly on Slither once you're done with the paint? Good help is hard to find these days. She does. There's at least one person that's going to be involved with it, and I'm in contact with him directly. So I'm trying to decide exactly where my stop point is right now. I'm going to paint the car, but for it to travel back to Florida, there's certain things that need to be connected or functional. And so the door latches need to be in the doors. That's one thing. So that means the striker posts need to be in the doors. Door handles probably need to be in the doors. The trunk latch, of course, all that stuff's going to have to be closed. The extensions will be on. The quarter extensions, the headlight, more than likely the headlight buckets will be on. And all the metal will be bolted into place. What I haven't decided yet, and I say whether I haven't decided whether I or somebody else is going to get the door handles. Let's say, do you want to put the new door handles on now, or do you want the old door handles and then take them back off? I think it's further ahead to put the new door handles on. I have the original door locks. Put those back in the car. The hood latch assembly, all that sort of thing can be put in, and I'll be making the holes for the hood pins, but I don't have like the little stainless steel rings that are going to go around the hood pin, stuff like that. I don't think I have any of the lights, but I'm not doing the wiring either. So there's no intention for me to do the wiring or the plumbing or the electrical or the drive line. I'm not putting the glass in it. That's not on my agenda. At least that's I've not agreed to any of that. So there's going to have to be somebody that takes that over and makes all that happen. The other thing that I'll probably do to the car is put the wing on the deck lid. So it's going to have a wing on it, and I will probably order the stripes for the sides, get those on the car. I'm unsure of the trim, whether it's going to have, it's got the trim on the on the quarter panel or rocker panels. So the holes are there for the trim, but I don't have any good hardware. I don't even have good trim, so I don't plan to put any of that on. So I'll end up putting the stripes on, and of course it'll have the hood stripes on it and everything else. But yeah, at this point I have no intention of doing any of the finished stuff. I don't want to. I'm not interested. There's too much going on with that, because you get the mechanical stuff. I'm not even sure what the status is with the engine or transmission at this point. So somebody's going to have to put that in too. And I can't sit around and wait. I've got other things that I need to do. So I don't know the status of the interior. I don't know the status of much of any of it at this point. But, as far as that all that trim stuff and all the interior stuff. So I'm not going to, I just can't. I've got too much other stuff to do right now. Thank you, Rick. That was a good question. Marcus, does the glass in the door weigh enough to affect the alignment? Oh, yeah, it does. It does. Here, now that's a good question, Marcus. Let me give you some little insight. Insight on this. There's a friend of mine who has a shop just up the road from here. He is an original owner of a 69 Mach 1. It's a 390 car, automatic, I believe. It's an automatic. He bought it new while he worked at Ford. He has some interesting knowledge on these cars. So I've talked to him, and I should really do sit down and do an interview with him and just talk about the history of what he knows of the Mustangs. His car is Acapulco blue. It's got a shaker hood on it. He's got, it was repainted once, but the car is just incredible. Just beautiful car. And he's building, I don't think he's building a 428, but he's like got some sort of big block he's putting together for it. So he was telling me the last time I was there, we were talking about the lead seams in the quarters. And he said, because he worked on the assembly line while these cars were being built, which is just amazing to me. But we were talking about the lead on the side of the car. He said one of his buddies that was his job, to do the lead on the side of the car. And he said, he had this pot and he had this wood stick thing and whatever. And he said he had 1 minute, 11 and 1/2 seconds to lead the side of the car. 1 minute, 11 and 1/2 seconds. That's what he had to get that lead right on the side of the car before. That was it. It was moving on. So every minute and 11 seconds, there was another car showing up in front of him. I was like, what? So as we were talking about this, he brought up, we were actually talking about the doors. And he said that there was a guy in charge of adjusting all that stuff. And he said they would adjust the door when they first put it on the car. And I don't know if he meant like if the striker wasn't there, or I don't think the striker was there. I don't know exactly. I have to go back and talk to him. But he implied that he said they would set the door up about maybe 3/16 of an inch or something, that it actually sat high, empty. And he said as it went down the line and the guys put the glass in and everything else, by the time it got past, it would be right at the right height. Now, I don't know if he implied that they would set it and leave it up with the striker not in place, or maybe the striker was there and not adjusted. But just that whole process is just sitting, it's just sitting slightly above the quarter. And when it got through all the components being put on, they knew that they could set it at this height, and when it got done, it would be level when it went out the rest of the assembly line. So, just really neat stuff. And I probably should probably try to make a historical type of video on that side of it. Like, let him walk around his car and give me details of when they were assembled. That would be just amazing to hear him talk about it. And his car, it's been repainted once. And the last time I was there, he was asking me for help because he's a great mechanic, but he's having trouble with the door glass, getting it adjusted correctly. Something's not adjusted right, and he's asking me to come by and help him out. So I may have to go back over there and give him a hand with that, see if I can't get his door glass straightened up. But as I was there the last time, I met his son. Now this guy, I'm telling you, his name is Rod. Rod is, I think he's 82 years old. 82. And he's still running his little welding business. And his son was there. And his son has to be my age. He's got to be mid-late 50s. And so it was really neat because I'd never met his son before. And so we're talking, and his son has like a 72 Mach 1 or something. And as we're talking, I jokingly looked at his son as we're looking at Rod's car. I jokingly looked at his son. I said, "So you've known this car your entire life?" And he said, "I have." I mean, that's just amazing. That's amazing to think that somebody like that, still has that car that they bought in 1969. Well, actually, I think he bought it. He ended up getting it in like late 69, early 70. But just incredible. So anyway, we'll move on. Marine, that welding worker story is real automotive history. Yeah, it is. And I really think that I should try to make an effort, you know, to interview him and try to get as much knowledge out of the process that I can, because it would just be so cool, firsthand information, you know, just so cool. My uncle, Marine, my uncle worked for Ford in Detroit in the 50s. Yeah. Yeah, and now you look at it, and you know everything's automated. Granted, there's still hands-on people. They still have to like put in a dash. You know, they have a machine that holds a dash, and they have to set it in, plug everything up, get everything, all the screws in the right place, and all that sort of thing. But not like, you know, when they used to hand build these cars. You know, coming down the assembly line, clamp some stuff together, and the guy with a spot welder, you know, a pinch welder, putting things together. Just a whole different world. Dave Britton checking in. All right. Dave, that's like, I think you're the fifth Dave tonight. You're like the fifth or sixth Dave. So Dave's checking in from Canada, by the way. So let me I got to get more coffee. My throat is killing me. Okay. So as I'm continuing on with the Cobra Jet process, and I'm getting closer and closer, I think my goal, I'm trying to, and tomorrow I guess is the first of October, right? If I'm understood correctly, tomorrow's the 1st of October. And I feel like within the next, hopefully within the next 2 weeks, I'll have everything in primer. Hopefully. I don't see any reason why I shouldn't. But I'll have everything in primer. And I'm hoping that I can have this car, if everything goes smooth, no reason I shouldn't have it done before Thanksgiving. The way I look at it. I mean, once I've got everything in primer, it's just a matter of getting everything sanded out and smooth and ready. And then of course the paint process, which is stressful enough. But we're gonna hope for. My goal is to have it done before Thanksgiving. That's my goal. Black GTX, hello from Minnesota. Ooh, GTX I like. I like the 67. That looks like a 68 though, in your thumbnail. I'm assuming. But I like the 67 myself. Okay, let me see here. Oh, Randall Heath sent me a picture. He went moose hunting. Said it keeps him from working on his cougar. But yeah, the goal I think is to have the car in paint before Thanksgiving. Now, as I sit here and think about it, there's a few other things that I need to consider. You know, it's got to have. I don't know who's going to doing all the trim pieces. I don't know. I don't want to even think about it. I don't even want to think about it. So Winged Warrior Dave says, once the metalwork is done, how many hours would you estimate to complete a paint job? That's a good question that I probably don't have a good answer for. I can tell you, you know, I track my hours, most of my hours, probably not all. I track most of my hours on the disassembly and build of the Cobra Jet. Now keep in mind, that car I had to cut up everything. I had to separate all the pieces to get the rocker panels out, to get the shock towers out, to salvage everything that I could out of that car for Charles. And, you know, I had 381 hours in taking his car apart and building the next car, the replacement, you know, basically the replacement. So as far as hours doing the paint, that's really tough to answer because I've already kind of pre-done some of that with the repair work that I did on the car. What I mean by that is if somebody is doing a patch panel on a quarter panel or on a fender or a door, and let's say they just welded in the patch and left it, and then the body guy has to get it. Well, the hours go into that to make him fix that door to where it's smooth again. Whereas in my case, I've preloaded all that stuff. I've already done everything to get it to that point. So there's a scale there. So some cars are going to take X number of hours because they need extra attention to a lot of the little things, and some are going to take less because that attention was already kind of built into the system, or replacing a door or a quarter panel addressed all that sort of thing, if that makes sense. Now, I don't know. I'm not really tracking the hours for the paint job. I mean, I'm going to have a rough guess. I mean, I could easily have 150 hours, probably. I don't know. I don't know for sure. Because you got to, there's a lot involved. There's just a lot involved. All the little pieces and parts, all the little things you have to do to make everything look right. I would say, you could easily have 150, 250 hours in a paint job. Just my rough guesstimate. So I'm not sure that helps you at all, but that's kind of my ballpark right now. Marine, my first car at 15 years old was a 69 GTX, $400. What a monster. Yeah. First car I bought when I got out of basic training, it was a 67 GTX. But unfortunately, it was a GTX clone. So it had a 318 in it, not a 426 Hemi or a or a 383. It had a 318 in it. It was just a clone, but it's still a fun car. Mr. Cerno, the car that you're in primer, did you fit it all together like all the door gaps and body lines before you go to paint it? Yes. Yeah. Now I did all that whenever I was doing assembly. So the driver's door had an issue with the bottom, didn't quite line up, and it didn't quite line up with the fender. And I massaged all that and got it to where it lines up the way it should, or very close to the way it should. The doors and quarters line up very well. The front fenders, that's going to be a different scenario because they're original fenders, but they're beat up. There's dents and dings in them. And so I'm going to have to really go over those and make sure that, that they're going to line up properly. And that's where probably the bulk of my time is going to end up being on those front fenders. These were not with the original car. They were from another car. And somebody had put filler on them, and it was really weird that they did it. And here's a little scenario. I found a bunch of filler on top of the fender, on the passenger fender, but there was no dent. There wasn't anything there. And come to find out, I was talking with some other people who've brought this up, that the fitment of the fenders, if you don't have the aprons correct, you don't have the shape correct on the apron, and you put that fender in, you could put a stress dip in that fender because you put that bolt in and it compresses. Those fenders are long and very, very flat, but you compress the center of that, or one or the other, moving forward or aft, and it could create a depression in that fender. And we're thinking maybe that's what happened. Maybe they had bolted that fender down and they saw that low spot and they were like, oh, and they filled it up with body filler when it didn't need it. It just needed the fender addressed correctly, or shimmed or whatever. So there's still a lot to do with with all of it, but the gaps and everything should be pretty close at this point. Pretty close. Steve Reed and Michael had a 67 440 GTX, and he was second owner, all original paint and interior. When he passed away, his daughter sold it for 60 grand. Ooh, man. I don't blame her. I don't blame her for selling that kind of money. Here's a. It's funny you brought that up though, and I know nothing will come of this, but I had some company, I don't even know, sent me an email, and then they were like, "Hey, we're in the business of buying and selling, like, YouTube channels or whatever," and they said, "Would you be interested in selling your YouTube channel?" And I was like, "Sure, yeah." $2 million. You can have it all for $2 million. And I told my wife about that. She's like, "Well, what if they want you to make content?" I said, No, they just get the channel. I'll just start another one. But if they want to have my channel, they can have it for $2 million. I'd be fine with that. 60 grand for a 67 GTX. Good for her, honestly, because it probably took a lot of stress off of her having to consider even just storing it. Rick says, "What is your labor rate per hour?" Well, that's a good question, Rick. And I think it's changing. I think it's changing. Basically, I was at $75 an hour, is what I was charging for my time. And that may have to change. And it's one of those, I don't know, I guess it's like a supply and demand thing, right? I think people see what I do, and I've talked to other shops. I've talked to other people who do independent work like I do, and some people are charging well over $100 an hour for their time. Nobody's charging less than I am, that I talk to. Now, more and more I'm finding that they can't find people like me to do this kind of work. So that puts me in demand for this kind of work. Now, does that mean I'm going to charge $150 an hour? No. I don't know what my eventual rate may change to, but currently it's $75 an hour is what my charge is. Now there's a lot involved with that too. There's not a lot of overhead, but there is overhead with what I have and what I have to do and materials. And there's just a lot, you have to think about. But that's a more than fair rate. And I know that there's, like I said, there's people charging a lot more than that, and probably not doing the same kind of work directly that I am. So, Steve Reed, it was a dark green metallic. Oh, that would be nice. Did it have a black vinyl top? My 67, it was maroon with a black vinyl top. Dave, my neighbor, has a 67 440 GTX that he purchased as a demonstrator back in 67. It is like new. Oh, man. I'd like to see pictures of that. That sounds awesome. Yeah. So, yeah, that was one of the things the dealers would do. They would buy these cars that had, like, all the options built into them and then show it off to the customers and see if they're, if they were interested. That would be awesome. The only problem with that kind of car, I say that it's a problem, is the you can't really, like, just drive it. It's one of those cars you kind of have to, like, keep it undercover, keep it safe. Steve Reed says, yes, original black vinyl top. Yep. They all look good with the black vinyl top. And Dave says, Dave Britton, my neighbor's is dark green metallic, no vinyl top. Oh, that's different. I think most of them ended up with a black vinyl top. Del Marine, will you take my 12-year-old son as an apprentice during next summer to keep the trade going? You know, I've had a lot of people offer me their kids. Hey, can you take him on? And no, I can't do it. I can't do it. Uh, Winged Warrior paint job estimate 150 hours times $100, 180 an hour, or 6K for mates is 33,000 versus 150 hours times 75 an hour. Materials. I'm sorry. Plus 6,000 materials is 17.5. Yeah, yeah. It's a huge difference. It is. And there's shops out there that are charging that. They're charging $180. And the thing is, you know, I give them credit. There's a lot of overhead. A big shop will have a lot of overhead, a lot to deal with, and provide health care and all that stuff for their employees and all those sort of things. So yeah, but it's not unheard of for 6,000 materials, 150 hours times 75 an hour, 17.5. Yeah, that's exactly right. Black GTX Joe Daddy needs to do a Mopar. I've considered it. I have considered it. Here's the thing. I don't know if I probably don't have a picture of it. I had that 67 Belvedere when I was in the Army. And I brought it home when I came home on leave got out of the Army in 1988. And it sat up at the junkyard for years. And I had moved back here to Georgia. And I went back up there one summer to visit family, and my brother sold the car. And I was like, "Where's my Plymouth?" "Oh, I sold it." I'm like, "How did you sell it?" "I have the title for it." Because in Pennsylvania, you have to have a title. I still have the title for that car. And I'm not exactly sure where it's at right now. There are parts of me that say, I want to go get that car and bring it back and redo it. And there's parts of me that say, you have enough to do. But yeah, I would probably if I were to do one, it would be that 67. It really would. That car, I really like that car. Terry Keithley, in 2006, I did a 63 Galaxy convertible complete restore at $18 per hour. Yep. Not anymore. Not anymore. And it's hard to find people to do it. I get that all the time. I get so many people to contact me. They can't find somebody to do that kind of work anymore. And what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Evan says, cheers everyone, got a scoot, stay safe and keep those ponies high and dry. Yes. Yeah. And we've been at an hour, and I think that's probably about where I'm about going to call it a night. Dave Britton, when I first moved across from my neighbor, he used to start the GTX, and I would walk out onto the first front step and just watch to soak it in. He'd come over to meet me and apologize for the noise. Oh man, yeah, that would be awesome to see something like that. They really would. As he thought I was being bothered by it, I said, "Are you kidding? I come out so I don't drool on the floor." Yeah, I get that. I definitely get that. Okay, I'm gonna end up calling this a night. My throat's not happy, and I think we've discussed quite a bit tonight, and that's all. That's good. As I said, I'm working on getting the primer on all the other pieces, and I will be putting out a video. What I've been trying to do, I don't know if you noticed or not, I've been trying to put out a video Wednesday and Friday, and if I can pull it off, I'll do that again. This seems to get more people interested or whatever, but anyway, that's going to be it for tonight, and I will be back here again next Monday, which will be October 6th or something. I think October 6th, and that'll be the first week of October, so looking forward to seeing you all again on the next live stream. So until next time, take care of yourselves. See ya.